I want to talk to you today about the M.E.G. This is a very interesting transformer. There's a certain way it works. Let's get into it. This right here is your soft iron core, multiple layers upon it. Now, generally the first thing that you see is this right here. This has wire that's on it. What's the importance of this when you first start? The frequency of this right here has to match this right here. Now, why would that be important? Why would we want to do something like that? Well, it's about how much you want to fight the core itself. You see, when you put in the wrong frequency to the core, it takes more energy to push through the entire core. Well, we don't want that. We want the flow to be as fast as possible and easy as possible. So we match the frequency here with this. And how do you do it? You take the radio frequency method, which basically means you take this right here and you put a resistor on it, okay? And you connect this to your frequency generator over here, and then you connect it to your oscilloscope over here. Now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna ping this. So basically you're gonna scroll through your frequency generator until you get to a point where it spikes. You're gonna mark that number. So you'll write the number down on your board, then you'll scroll again and see when it spikes. What you're looking for is the highest spike possible. That means that you hit the correct frequency of it. You're gonna get various frequencies. You're gonna get a quarter wave, you're gonna get a third wave, you're gonna get a half wave. All those things are gonna be inside of it. You need to decide which one is the correct 1-to-1 ratio, which is the correct one for this. Now, because you did this, these two, when you put in these, and I'm going to put this right here for now, just these here will now be one of the other values you pulled up. And say, well, hold on, why is that? Well, when using a full wave here, I'm probably going to want to use a quarter wave here. Everything that's in resonance with each other picks up more energy because of the resonance itself. That is key to understanding what you're doing here. If you just want to run it with energy through it and not understand frequency, good luck. It's going to take you forever and it's going to take twice as much energy, and you're never going to reach the point you want to in this transformer. You must understand frequency and resonance to do it. Therefore, we at least want to put 1/3 of a wave here to this one here. That to that. Now, let's take a look at why we would offset these versus putting it here. It's an energy flow pattern. So I'm going to take this and it's going to run through here to this point. It stops. I have switched this side of the core on. So now I have 1/2 enabled. Now when this switches, go back up to here, I have this 1/2 enabled. I want to turn it on here, then turn it on here. I'm fluxing back and forth. Now, can you do it from the two top ones here? Yes, you can, but it changes the flow direction. Instead of going just here, it goes all the way to here, then all the way back. It simply changes how much distance you want in your flow direction on the core. This is going to vary versus what you want on the output of what you're doing. I like this one here across from each other, and every one that I've seen, it works really well, depending on what you're looking for. Why is some of this stuff important going back and forth? The object of anything in resonance is to have them work like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The oscillation matters. You want them to turn on and off, on and off. That's the whole point of it. So when you get to a point in frequency when they're doing this and all of the cores that you put in start to match, including the soft iron core, now it's pinging easily. The amount that has to go through it is less. You'll actually take the amount of energy and turn it down, not up. You turn it down. Then the frequency is allowed to shine through. As you turn the energy down, the frequency itself creates that balance between them. Here's the cool thing about what you're doing in the M.E.G that I didn't discuss yet. You have magnets here in the inside of your soft iron core. As Tom Bearden put it, I get my magnetic is free. I pay for my dielectric. What does that basically means to you? The current or amps is free. The voltage I have to pay for. That's huge. What does it also mean? What is the one thing you didn't understand just right now as I said this? The temperature is not high. Why? Because I'm not using the energy that I put into it as my magnetic field. When you put energy in something to make a magnetic field, it goes out and it dissipates in heat. You get hysteresis. That's the one thing you don't want in this. You want it to be cold. Why? The current itself is hidden inside the core. When it's in here, now I put the volts in here. This is why frequency matters, because you don't need a whole lot of energy to pull the frequency. You simply need a very high voltage. So when you put it in there, when you get to the higher voltages, you start to pull off the frequency around your core. As it resonates with the core, now we can start pulling in our amperage. The amperage will react. You get a cold field going. Understand this. Your direction for your magnetic field is inward. Your dielectric follows your magnetic, always. It's a chasing game. It chases it. Therefore, your dielectric, which would normally, in a normal magnetic field that goes out like this, your dielectric would be out here. Now that your magnetic is in here, your dielectric now is flowing inside. It's a complete switch. Now the energy comes in cold. What are you doing? Your magnetic field normally creates heat. In this case, because it starts out cold and you're not producing an extra field using electricity, it's cold. It pulls in your dielectric. Now you have a flow pattern going on. You are now flowing your dielectric into your magnetic field. It's always chasing it. Now you'll get a flow pattern that occurs. Into here, out and back around. You now get a flow pattern. What is the one thing that you learn in an air core transformer? Is that you're taking the air itself and using it as a capacitor. You're trapping it in between fields as you go. For every time that you do this, this is your plasma. This right here is your air. This is your plasma. You're trapping it inside. You're using the air itself as your capacitance in there as you compress it. Now in this, you're doing the same thing. If you can understand that, your capacitance and flow comes in, and now we're taking that capacitance that's in the air itself and we're using it. We're using it to drive it. Now we're getting more energy into the system. This shows up when you take two coils and put them apart from each other and the secondary one pulls plasma out of it. Why? Because the resonance itself pulls the plasma in. You're not creating the energy. You're pulling it in from the environment. What happens to this core? It turns cold. And it'll continue to self-oscillate as it's cold. And why would it do that? Well, it's not losing the energy in hysteresis like you would normally do. Normally the energy goes out, you lose it, you're not able to recapture it. But in this case, because it's cold, because the temperature is working this way, because you're using the environment to create the temperature difference, not the temperature itself, but the environment to create the temperature difference. That's why you're getting more. That's why it stays cold. That's why it stays in oscillation. You're not losing your energy right away. This is no different than the other circuits that come out in over unity. It all is working on the same principle. Can you put frequency into something? Can you bounce it off of one another? Can you create a resonance in it? Can you then create it in a cold fashion so that it does not lose its energy? Then you can pull up the environment energy around you. You're now in the correct speaking language of that energy around you because you understood the air as capacitance in this system. You get the plasma. The air is your capacitance between the plasma. Now we start to understand. If everything's plasma and we're in a big radiant field full of energy, all I need to do is trap it and pull it into my system. How do I do that? It is in this simple way right here. You're simply understanding where your plasma layers are. You're understanding your air in those plasma layers. You're compressing that plasma layer with the air, and now you're pulling it into your system, and that is now converted into energy into your system. This whole thing and every over unity experiment starts to work this way. Everybody figured out the same thing, they just did it in different ways. You can do it in an air core transformer. You can do it in a solid core transformer. It all depends on how much you understand your resonance and frequency. This right here is the M.E.G. You don't have to pay for your current. It's automatically in there and it's cold, which is a beautiful thing. This right here will pick up a ton of energy and it'll go cold. If it's not going cold, you're doing something wrong. You should stop, look at it, and figure it out. As you run through the radio frequency of this, the actual vehicle's going by. The actual transformer itself will start to make a sound. All the way through. It makes every one of those sounds as it goes by. Now you can understand the resonance in it. You can hear the oscillation of how fast it's working with there. And you're not changing the amount of energy going in. You're changing the frequency of it. You're using a frequency generator to do this. It then amplifies and you're able to pull it out. Why would I want to go from a full wave to a quarter wave? Well, because they're in the same resonance pattern. They all show up in the same pattern of that core. So why not use the energy while it's there? It's free. That's the whole point of it. That's the point of putting things in resonance, is that you get extra energy for free. You're not pushing any harder to get it. Once you lower the amount of energy in this, and you deal with the frequency itself, once it starts pulling in the environment, once it starts changing everything, you're going to lower the amount of energy you put into it. Now you can work towards a bypass. So basically you need a switch and a very small capacitor. You just need the capacitor to work until the switch itself can happen. So there's no loss of frequency. However, make sure you watch how much capacitance you put into it, because that in itself can change the frequency in your system. And that's not necessarily what you want to do. So you have to balance things perfectly. This is a very hard technique to pull off. I deal with resonance every day. I put it in every system that I work on, and there's a total technique on how to do it. It's about balancing everything out. Now, this is just one of many over unity circuits that we have out here. I've always said you'll never find a resistor in them. You may find diodes in them. Even those are at a loss, so you want to be able to pull it without a diode. You don't find a lot of caps unless you're able to pull out the energy of it, and only when restarting, and then you cut off the cap itself because you won't need it anymore, and it messes with your system. When you have things in a frequency balance, they tend to run so much faster. It's like taking a spark gap, and your spark gap runs at 240 degrees. But then you put it in resonance with your system. What happens? It drops down to room temperature. If you've never seen it, you'll never understand it. You're actually flowing the energy properly without resistance is what it's telling you. You are now in balance with your system. Now your system runs better. You'll only understand it if you see it, because resonance works that way. It all works on the balance within your system. Tapping one thing to the next, one thing to the next. But it's not tapping as it's slamming down on a plate or something like that. You're not tapping the table. No. It's like an on and off, a very soft on and off, on and off. It's like a dance that they do together, okay? They're just dancing. You do not want spikes in the dance. You don't want to slam it hard. You simply want them to dance. If you're looking at a flow pattern, it would look like they're swirling away from each other like this, and they're just sitting at a distance, talking to each other, going, we're okay, we're in the right distance from each other, and we're correctly balanced. That's what you want. That's resonance in a system. It's a beautiful flow pattern. The M.E.G works just like I said. You're pulling the energy in. This one's free. So your negative E field is right there. This right here, this right here. Anytime it goes in there, that's your negative E field. They call it that because it's going in there cold. That's it. This right here, that's free. That's your magnetic field. You didn't have to pay for it because it was already done. Somebody had already trapped it in there and created a flow pattern for you. Now, you just have to work with the flow pattern by basically putting things in resonance. When you pull this energy out, here's the thing that people don't understand. In order to pull this energy out properly, without ruining your system, these are capacitors. When you pull the energy out of here, this to here connection you must have balance here as well. This first connection must be balanced inside your system. It's balanced on the exit. Why? Anytime there's a resistance here, if I took my flow pattern that I have here, right? And they're going counter to each other, so I'm not... The last thing I want to do is spike it on the exit. Why? Because that spike comes right back into there. Boom. Goes right back in there, throws your whole system out of whack. You don't want that. You want this to balance with this in order for the resonance on the back end not to spike back on you. You don't want back EMF in this. That spike is what that is. You want to eliminate that from your system by making it flow while this is in resonance with this. That's what you have to do. Now, there's a way to draw it. You basically put a light in there. Yeah, it looks like a happy face guy. You put a light in there so that it goes into the light and it pulls the energy so that it stops it. It stops it from changing the resonance. Your light bulb is a draw towards your capacitor bank, but it stops the frequency difference. It now uses a little bit of the energy that you're pulling out in order to stop the frequency from changing. That's why you'll generally see a light bulb right before you see a capacitor bank, most likely a neon, because it's burning off a little bit of that energy before it can go on to the rest of the system. When it burns that energy, that is a point where the frequency will stop and can no longer push back into your system. That's why they use it. So, you'll most likely see most creators put a light right here so they can stop the frequency from changing. Otherwise, you get the unwanted spike, and we don't want the unwanted spike. We don't want the back EMF in it because it's going to change our beautiful dancing pattern that we have that's going on. So, anyway, that's what's going on in the M.E.G, and I hope you guys understand this. It's about balance. It's about understanding things. It's about understanding where your magnetic flow is and how to create it in different ways. It's about keeping it cold. It's not a hot energy system, nor will it ever be. It is a cold energy system that draws in the negative E field from the environment. This is the beginning of understanding a room temperature superconductor. This is the understanding of right where you need to start. Just the beginning. Not the finished product, not the good product. This is the beginning of understanding where it goes. How to pull in the environment. If you can figure this out and get the environment to pull in, you're going to be light years ahead of everyone else. If you say it doesn't exist, you'll never get it done. And you'll never figure it out. I'm sorry, it just works that way. You must understand the resonance of your system. With that said, have yourself a great day. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds.
Wheels of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time. Battling the establishment for just a little recognition has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds,